Okay, my name is Clarence Seeliger. My nickname is Chuck. We are at 5418 Leatherstocking Lane in Stone Mountain, Georgia. This is Thanksgiving. I'm with my wife, Gwen.
And this is year 2013, and I'm Gwen. Married to his honor for a few years now.
Oh, I got that.
And I'm Sarah Jacqueline Hager Kelly, Gwendolyn's sister. This is my husband, Max. Go.
And I'm Max Kelly, and I'm the oldest of the family now.
Elder.
And yeah, let's call it elder because that sounds more official. And we live in Slocum, Alabama, right on the old farm where Jackie and Gwendolyn grew up.
This is the suburbs of Slocum.
Yes, north of Slocum suburb. And we built a new house there. Live next door to our daughter. She's got a new house there. And we're just enjoying living.
Oh, okay. We got married when I was 21 and my father was already, Alpha, he was already worried about me being an old maid, and I guess I can understand it because every girl in my high school class was married except one. And he told me this story. He said, well, you know what you can do? It's like this. If I tell you to go through those woods and get the straightest stick you can find and see how you come out. He said, what you can do, and probably would do, is go through that woods and kept looking for a straight stick, and you want to get the very straightest one. And then when you get on the other side, you're going to have to take accept a crooked stick. In other words,
You can't go back.
you can't go back. You just got to go straight through. So I guess he meant you need to start looking for a husband.
And I'm the crooked stick she found.
On the other side.
Almost got to the other side. 21 years old.
And that was back in the days you had to ask your future father-in-law, could you have his daughter's hand in marriage? And he said, sure, lots of luck. That was April of 2014 will be 60 years ago. And we still live. And nobody's got a black eye out of the whole process yet.
Well,
We got close.
Except for that one. Oh, yeah.
not close, not close.
Well, I can tell you, I got married at 29. I heard that story more than once.
Did you really?
Oh, yes. But I got me a nice straight stick here. Even though I was 29. And that was in 1968, right, Chuck?
And actually, you would have been 30 very shortly.
There, the next, unless we got married
We got
and,
married in 69, so you would have been 29.
yeah. But I got married, actually, no, we got married June the 7th, and my birthday is June the 23rd, so I guess I was just over 29.
Yeah.
I'd have had to wait a whole year.
I've been telling a falsehood. I've been saying that you would have been 30.
No. And we've been pleasantly pleased with the outcome, yes. So we hung in there anyway. And Daddy has a lot of stories. You remember some of them, Max?
Stories?
Not untruths, stories. Actually, I remember when you got married, right before you got married, I guess she was a little nervous. She was so young. You remember jumping out the window?
Yeah.
She dreamed she was...
She blamed that on me.
We had these big panes in the bottom half of the window, and I was in the bed right next to the window.
Sleeping, right?
Sleeping, yeah. Well, I dreamed about this snake, and I thought it was going to get Gwendolyn. And so I dove through the window, and I was saying, the snake's going to get Gwendolyn, the snake's going to get Gwendolyn. And my mother came out the back door around where I was, and she said, you're just bleeding all over everything. Because I was bleeding.
And it was a big window,
Yeah.
shattered that thing.
So now, what year did you and Dad get married?
4,
54, and Grandma passed away in
63.
63. I
63, so
think.
9 years later.
Yeah.
Now, how about when Uncle Chuck met the family for the first time?
Well, that was, you went to tell
What story?
how you got there, the night you came to our house. Where were you were stationed where?
Came to your house?
To Daddy's house.
Well, I remember that.
Well, go ahead and
But-
tell.
But the thing is, you're just going to tell them about how we met or anything like that?
No, we're telling the story of the first time you came to our Daddy's house. Well, I'd invited him to come up and,
We don't
meet the
wanna
family
listen
for
to
the
all that
weekend.
gory detail there.
But where were you stationed in Savannah? Was that you were
It
in
was Hunter
Savannah?
Air Force Base in Savannah.
Right. And of course, it's hard to find Slocum, hard to find Union Church, hard to find our house once you found that.
Where was his GPS?
So he wandered through the countryside and got lost. And he kept saying, "I need to find Union Church." And they always kept him going to the other Union
Oh, my.
Union Hill.
Union Hill.
That's right.
But he finally got there. And I think we'd all gone to bed, hadn't we?
That was about 2 o'clock in the morning.
2 o'clock in the morning, we thought he'd changed his mind. So we finally came in, but the way our house was situated, we had 2 big bedrooms with 2 beds in each bedroom.
Did he have to sleep there without us?
Shut up, that's my punchline. The women slept in the back and the men in the front. And the night he met in my dad.
I still remember those the kind of words I was ready for by Alphys. He said, "Come on in and sleep there." And he went to bed.
In the same room with my dad.
And I bet he didn't close the door either. The wood door.
At the front door.
The front door, bed was one.
I don't remember.
Well, he never closed the wood door.
But I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How entertaining it was. Yes, it was.
Oh boy. But he hung around. Must not have been too bad.
He toughed it out. And we were so worried about him being a city boy and things. Wonder if he could eat our type cooking. We just cook country. Shoot.
He fit right in there.
Sure came in and he fit right in.
Now what do you have to say about that? Maybe you didn't think so.
About what? About cooking?
No, about
But fitting
everything.
him.
The food,
Oh,
though.
well. It took a while to get it in. I don't know. Of course, my background is that I was born and raised in Seattle. And I graduated from the University of Washington and then joined the Air Force. And I was in the Air Force when I met Gwen down in Pascagoula, Mississippi. We started dating. And then we separated. I went off to Hunter Air Force Base and she went to New Orleans. I believe she was working for Chrysler as part of the space program. I think it was a booster rocket for the Gemini, we think, but we're not sure. And meanwhile, I went to Hunter Air Force Base, and then from Hunter, I went on exercise to Fort Hood, and then from there I had volunteered for duty in Southeast Asia. And I went to Vietnam and Thailand and came back, and then back to Hunter, and then to Oklahoma. And so at some point, eventually, she went to work in Atlanta. And so I decided I'd go to Atlanta because she was there.
Keep going. It's recording.
Okay. But because she was there. And I also wanted to go to law school, and I was accepted at Emory Law School. And so we met after 2 years after I got 2 years through law school. I think I had been proposing to her for almost 5 years. She finally decided that I might make it through law school, so therefore she'd accept
That's
my
his
application.
story. That's his story.
That's not a story. We went up to the Longhorn up in Buckhead, and I was about ready to say, well, this is it. You'd already gone to my house and met my family. You wouldn't give me a straight answer, and then in February, I was about ready to say, well, maybe we ought to separate or something like that. And then she said, well, don't you think we ought to get married this spring?
That's mostly true. As they say in the paper, that's mostly true, but
That's
not
what they
all
call
true.
playing the fish.
Oh, yeah. 5 years.
But let me tell you my version.
I'm not through yet, dear.
Okay, give it.
So anyway, that's how we, so at that point, went back to her apartment, and I kissed her goodnight. She walked into the apartment, she slammed the door, and I heard a bunch of people screaming inside. I think you told Alice.
Okay, you're
Karen.
elaborating now.
Oh no, that's what happened. And then I went back to my apartment and told my roommate that I think I'm going to get married, and he kind of
And they screamed.
And that was then. Of course, we did get married that June.
Were you out of law school yet?
No, I was finishing up my second year.
So now, how long was the courtship?
5 years.
5 years?
We kept in contact all the time. We were separated while I was going to the service and while she
Right.
was moving around in the space. So we talked from time to time, and, a lot of letters back and forth. And from time to time we get able to get together. She came to Savannah one time. I went to visit her in New Orleans a couple times, I think. And we stayed in contact.
Long
Do
distance
you still have
relationship.
any of the letters?
I don't
You
know.
wanna read those letters?
Yeah, I'm just curious with
I kind of doubt, I really do doubt. I didn't keep
Catherine
things
and
like
Smeagol.
that too much because I didn't have any place to put them. But he has some of his old letters and things.
You want to tell your version?
Yes.
Remind me of what I objected to. Oh, that
People yelling in the background when you shut the door, when you went to your apartment?
no, that wasn't what I objected to. Oh, that I waited until it looked pretty certain he was going to graduate. That was not the truth. The real truth, the real honest to God truth, is that Daddy did not encourage me to go to college. He says, "Oh, you're just going to get married."
Yeah.
And I said, "Heck no,
You did.
I did get married, but he thought I was going to get married and not ever use the education."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I borrowed money from him to go to college. And I was determined to pay that money back before I got married and save a certain amount of money. I had in my mind how much I was saving because he said I wouldn't use that education. And I wouldn't do it until I got that money saved.
Well, now he didn't offer to send me to college. He's told me the same thing. You'll just get married, and I had saved enough war bonds to pay my school, business school.
Troy.
Business
Oh,
school
business, yeah.
in Birmingham. But see, I kept working, and by that time, he knew that there was a possibility you'd keep working. So
Well-
he softened up a little bit.
Yeah, he had softened up a little bit, but I did those. I'd been saving too. I picked cotton. I did a lot of things and did those
Sold tomatoes.
strawberries and tomatoes.
Yeah.
And so I had a good bit of money saved up, but it ran out before I
yeah.
graduated. And now it's probably a coincidence, but he quit farming about that time and took a public job,
Yeah.
as they say,
Yeah.
and along with the money.
Yeah.
What kind of public job did he do?
He worked in a meat packing place.
Which was not a fun job to do.
No,
So
hard work.
you thought I was
Hard work.
appreciative.
Yeah.
Now, was that the old sausage factory
Yeah.
that we talk about there in
Idle.
Slocum?
Idols.
Yeah, down past Frank, Virginia, and them
Yeah.
live.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that was what year? The 60
Year what?
that you graduated from college, and
63.
he went
62.
to work at the meat packing.
Well, now he went to work at the meat plant earlier because my mother had died,
Yeah.
and he was just at kind of loose ends.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did need the money.
Yeah.
And he remodeled the house.
Yeah.
That was another reason he
Himself.
for himself.
Yeah. Oh, he done a lot of that work himself.
That's right. But he needed some money for that too.
Well, he had changed over. He was raising cattle,
Yeah.
and he didn't have to work on the farm as much.
Right. Well, he had not done a lot of. Well, he did the cows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a lot of
He
money
did
on
those
cows.
cows up to 70.
Yeah.
Around 70, 72.
Even when he started working at the plant, he
Yeah.
still had.
Oh, yeah.
Still had the cow.
Yeah. But
So
now,
that's
their daddy was a very very intelligent man, way above what his life work. If he'd have had the opportunity to go to college and got an engineering degree, there's no telling what that man would have done.
Engineering?
Engineering.
Well, of course it would have.
I don't think
Absolutely.
engineering would have been his field, though.
Yeah, I think he would have.
The reason I say
Yes, Abby.
that, he had, his carpentry
Oh,
crew
yeah, I know.
was in a cheese hut.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All
those
Alyssa,
tools.
shut the
Yeah,
door,
and
please.
if you use those tools, you better put them back there.
Shut the door.
That is the reason I'm pretty careful with my stuff to
Thank
this
you, Alyssa.
day.
Can we pause just a second while we find Abby's sippy cup? Okay.
Okay, well, after I graduated from law school and we've been married for about a year, I did pass the bar. And for a year I worked for, not many of you know, I worked for about a year for another lawyer up in Buckhead, and then I went out in private practice for myself in Decatur, Georgia. And I practiced for 9 years. And of course I went through the same thing that any new lawyer starts off when you hang out your shingle. There were a lot of times when I just didn't make any money. And Gwen was kind enough to continue to work as an engineer, and so she really supplied the income for the household for several years until my practice finally started to develop. And then in 1979, for reasons my wife would not let me go into, I ran for judge and won. And I took office on January 1st of 1981 for state court. And then I served for 4 years there. Then I ran for Superior Court, selected and took office in 1985. And I've been a Superior Court judge ever since.
Is that all you're saying?
Well,
Okay.
I'd like to say a lot more, but you told me I can't say
There's more juicy things.
Required to do the short version.
it. I'll just sit over here and nurse my beer.
Now,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell me how you got to be an engineer. Why you got it?
Well, I got to be an engineer because of Sputnik. And at that time, when Sputnik came along and everybody was wanting to be engineers, and of course I said, oh, I think I want to do that too. I want to do that. and so I decided I'd go into engineering. And I chose chemical engineering because I thought that was more appropriate for women, having no idea whatsoever what one did, and that it was probably the least appropriate of all the engineering. I just had not a clue. And so I'm lucky to have gotten into a good place. And when I first tried to get a job after I got out of school, there was no lines for female engineer. Now, any female engineer can just get a job with buku money. I had to go through an employment agency to find me a job. And I started, when I graduated, I didn't have a job. So I was out on the farm with no telephone, no fax, no nothing, and trying to find a job. So that's why I had to get an employment agency and found this job in a brick factory. It was a refractory brick factory, but I thought that was such a crummy thing to do. But I did. I did it, and then Lockheed came calling. No, not Lockheed, Chrysler in New Orleans, and I went down there, and that suited me much, much better. It was in materials. It's still, I'm not so sure they got their money's worth, but I got a start. And it was a fun place to work, and met Chucky there. And and I went on, and finally Lockheed did come calling, and moved up here. And that was a very nice switch also. I went into materials engineering, and then moved over to the materials lab, which I stayed in for a lot of years. And that's where I left. I finally left when there was a downturn, and I had gotten interested in real estate. And so I started buying duplexes and quadruplexes and that type of thing. And we remodeled and painted and upgraded, and that was a lot of fun.
The house?
Huh?
The house?
No, the duplexes and quadruplexes, and did that for a lot of years. And finally, I decided it was time.
Children.
Huh? Yeah, I will. I finally decided we'd back off, and I started selling. But in the meantime, we had 2 children, right, not too long after we got married. Cynthia was born in 1971 and Catherine in 73. And they were, of course, the delight of my life, as my grandchildren are today.
How many grandchildren and what are their names?
3 grandchildren, two girls. Cynthia has Abby, and Catherine has Alyssa, the older, and James, our new 1-year-old grandson. And they are very delightful children.
I'd like to add something to that,
Okay?
just to make sure it's clear what kind of work she undertook, because by the time she finally started to sell off the properties, she had 2 duplexes and 31 condominium units. Or how many fourplexes did you have?
Oh, it varied because I bought and sell.
Well, you had 5 quads when I was mowing your lawns.
Okay, that's right. So she had 20 units. There's four condos in each unit.
Plus Clarkston, which was 8,
Well,
and
now,
Lawrenceville,
but
which
I had
was...
already sold Clarkston.
You had them all at one time.
And then you
Okay,
had
okay.
the condos in
Brandon
Clarkston,
Hill.
Brandon Hills.
Oh man, we're bragging up some old bad memories there.
Right, but
But
You didn't even mention the one in Stone Mountain.
Oh yeah, then there was a Stone Mountain.
the point is, that, she makes it sound like she was kind of dabbling in real estate. She wasn't. She was really working hard and had a lot of responsibilities. My last count at one time she had the 5 condos that you mentioned. She also had 8 units in Clarkston, and she had 2 duplexes, which are 4 units up in Lawrenceville,
Which I still have.
which she still has. And that's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and I got a lot of help, including that from my daughters. They came and mowed the lawn, helped me paint, and do a lot of cutting and sewing and whatever. And I have a niece who did a lot of, came and when she moved to Alpharetta, did a lot of help. We did some duplex work, remember that, Vanessa? We did molding, installed the molding.
Big building.
And then we had the Marietta fiasco that she and I and her husband painted entirely, put in molding, carpet, and recruited their friends. Catherine came and we personally painted this basement, this warehouse thing. Lord have mercy.
And you know, that's how we paid for Lewis.
That's why Lewis is in this
That's why
world.
Lewis is here, is that all the extra money
You
we
still
made
got that,
is
Gwen?
what we got my
Yeah.
tubes untied with. I have Lewis.
Really?
Yeah, impressive, huh? We made a lot of money on it.
And did a lot of work.
Spent a lot of time over there.
Yeah.
We all know
Every
Marietta.
afternoon.
But now what you didn't mention was she decided to be a chemical engineer. She had never had a day of chemistry in high
Never.
school, never once. And now I always thought, she said it was because of Sputnik. I thought it was because to be an engineer she was going to make a lot of money. Now, that was just my thought.
I thought it was exciting work.
God,
I did.
Oh,
I
well.
thought it was going to be a lot of. Well, there actually was. Just working on the space program was pretty neat.
yeah. But that did pay good, didn't it?
It did pay good.
What did you do in the space program in particular?
Well, I started off in materials,
Well, that's-
quality engineering and materials.
I was on the base. I was on the
My shoe.
booster for the S1B,
Right. That's what Chuck couldn't remember.
Saturn 1B.
Saturn
You know
1B.
Which one that was used as a booster for?
Saturn, mine? No, hers was the first Saturn vehicle. It was built by Chrysler,
Okay.
and later the Saturn V replaced it.
Which was right adjoining our
which
plant.
the booster was built in the same facility.
Yes, but that, Boeing did
Yeah.
the, this one.
And that was a Saturn V,
Yeah.
and that's the last one that, before shuttle.
Okay, what about were you one of these boosters used on the moonshots?
The 1B, never did go to the moon. It went, up and orbited. It was one that, we put the,
Was that the monkey?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And, we used the, can't think of the name of the space capsule. But, they orbited the Earth, on several programs.
Max did work for NASA.
And that was the forerunner to this moon launch. We got
Yeah.
a lot of data from the 1B, which she worked on, in order to program the Saturn V, because it had to have mid-course corrections going to the moon
That's right.
and come back.
Okay, that was my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, so paints and glues and that kind of materials, because you.
Yeah, I worked at Lockheed. I worked mostly in adhesive. That adhesive was the main thing I worked on, but I also worked on paints and primers and.
Well, now you got. Let me augment that a little bit. She sounded like you was working on a paint shop or maybe something else, but the materials that she was working on was a forerunner to all of this stuff that helped together in order to get us to the moon. Because we didn't have the materials. This was being engineered as we went along.
Oh, we're talking on different things. I thought we were talking about Lockheed, but at Chrysler,
Yeah.
I did a lot on checking the quality of products that came
You was
in. I was a little on the beginning
Yeah,
stage.
you was quality assurance program.
Yeah, I was in quality.
Yeah.
But at Lockheed, it was not quality. It was materials
Yeah.
development.
Mhm.
We would get requirements for
Yeah.
materials for the plane. C-15 was
Yeah.
my main plane.
And C1.
And C-130.
C-130,
C-130, C-141. Actually, you use the same materials on all of them.
Yeah.
It's just a development as new things came along.
And they built new C-130s while you was working there, didn't they?
Yeah, well, C-130 was the bread and butter.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh,
they
yeah.
kept going.
They're still building
And still,
C-130.
and still not, I don't think, aren't
Yes,
they
they
just
are.
not?
Yeah, they're
modified?
still building
Oh,
those
they're still
things.
building the things.
I think you have to start, they go and put a letter alphabetically down as they,
Yeah.
I think you have to go back and start saying 1A1, on that C-130.
Sorry about that. I was just curious because I'm not a science person at all. So you
Oh,
said
that's good.
materials, and I said, "What's that?"
Well, but Gwendolyn told me that she worked on sealants on the C5.
Right.
I
That-
thought she meant she worked on the ceilings.
Well,
No,
C-1,
I did. I swear.
the
I did.
C-15 was the biggest production cargo plane that the United States has ever built.
How about that?
And they had a real weight problem.
Oh,
So
yeah.
one of my challenges was, in
Never
sealants,
mind.
was to get lightweight sealants.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
we had microblooms in it and all this kind of stuff.
You didn't,
Go ahead.
you didn't want to tell them about how you having to look after that.
Is
Brainy,
that,
brainy
is that
guy.
active?
Is
Yeah.
it all those?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, he was really my mentor, Dr.
Yeah.
Miller.
Slide it back a little bit.
And he did a lot of corrosion control. Yeah, I did a lot of corrosion control too. And we
There you
did
go, girl.
fibers.
Anyway,
Okay,
thank you. Mom.
next.
Well, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to Auburn. But one of the reasons I wanted to go to Auburn was there was 9 boys for every girl. I figured with odds like that, I ought to find a husband. But of course, Daddy, he wasn't for me going to college.
Why
So-
is that?
Well, he didn't want to fund it. I
Thought she was going to just get married.
just get married.
and raise babies.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Be a waste of money.
Yeah.
Waste of money.
So I went to this guy came down around the country. They enlisted people to go to Birmingham to school, to Albertson Drone Business School. I don't know why. They had one in Dothan. But anyhow, Daddy and the Marshes and the Crawfords signed us up to go up there. So I finished high school on Friday, and on Sunday, Daddy took me up to Newton and put me on the bus to go to Birmingham. Now, I had never been further than Montgomery, and that one time I went to Montgomery. So, but they promised that they would meet the bus and pick us up, and the school gave us board until they could find us a part-time job to pay our board. Well, this girl she went out to Vestavia in Birmingham to this nice section and to work, and she babysat 3 kids some of the time to pay for her board. Well, she didn't like it, and she told me what all they had. They had all these televisions and how nice it was, this big house they lived in and all. I think that sounds good to me. So when the school went to pick her up, Margaret up, I took my suitcase and put it on there. And so they told me, well, I wanted to stay. Well, Miss Cowart said, well, we wasn't going to try anybody else since Margaret didn't like it. But since you're here, you could stay. So I went on to business school until the next tax season came. And Mr. Cowart had his office downstairs in the basement, big, we had about 6 desks down there. And he said, well, would you drop school and work for me during tax time, and if you will, I'll pay you $125 a month. A lot of money. And he said, I'll help you. I'll dictate some and help you. And I did that, and when tax time was over, I went back to school. And Mr. Cowart taught me a lot. That was valuable. And I stayed and worked for him for a long time. And they would take me out to eat just like I was part of the family. They then went to Miami on vacation and work. And they'd take me with them. But it was way out of Birmingham, and we couldn't, I had no way of getting in, and I just got tired of it. So I decided I'd quit and go to Dothan and get me a job. And I did. And while I was there, I went to...
Where?
While I was at home, John.
Okay.
I went to the sweet shop and was talking to Max's cousin that finished high school with me and was officially introduced to Max.
What about Virginia? Tell about that.
Well, after that,
We gotta go to Troy.
oh yeah, well,
Stretch my name.
I got this, the job in Dothan. Well, Max's sister Virginia came up on Saturday, and she said, well, how would you like to go to Troy to school tomorrow? She said, we could ride up with Earl too. He'd drop us off at Troy. And I said, well, I think I'd do that, but I've got to tell him that I won't take that job. And sure enough, he picked us up, took us up to Troy, dropped us off at the dorm. They took us in. And
had no way to get home if they didn't, right?
well, that's true too. And Virginia, you know, she walked on crutches. Well, school was fixing to start, and they didn't have any, in the dorm, they didn't have any rooms except on the 3rd floor. No elevator. Virginia walked up to that 3rd floor, no air conditioning. And we was there for I don't know how many weeks, but finally they got us to the 1st floor.
But she got herself up 3 flights of floor,
Three?
and she had
Braces.
polio and no mobility in her legs whatsoever. None.
And we walked around the campus. I carried her books, and she walked up all the stairs. There was none of this handicap mess. Nuh-uh.
Accessibility.
Are we?
Go ahead.
And she went 1/4. Virginia went 1/4, and she went back to Geneva County, and they needed a commercial teacher in Coffee Springs, and they wanted to hire her, but somebody didn't want to. But anyhow, she got hired after 1 quarter of school, and she was a wonderful teacher because she had worked in offices and she knew everything about it. And they loved her down there. She taught those kids how to use the telephone. You know, it was just backward back then. Oh, now where am I? What am I doing?
You're in Troy.
college.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
in Troy.
well, Max and I was courting a little bit. And I had his picture, and he would call the dorm. He went to school at Fort Belvoir, and he'd call the dorm, and we'd get in an argument. And I'd hang up the phone and go back and take his picture and put it in the bottom drawer under my dirty clothes.
You were going to school.
That's where I stayed mostly.
Where were you going to school next?
Yeah, well, I'd go to junior school, see,
What?
Army school.
Army School,
Oh,
Fort Belvoir.
okay,
Fort Belvoir. But anyhow, we kept going, and I went back and worked one more tax season for Mr. Coward. He asked me if I'd go back up and work one more. And we got married after tax season. The tax season was over the 15th of March, and we got married in April, 16th of April. And boy, I was going someplace. Max was fixing to get orders, and he was in the military, and boy, I was going to see the world.
I always wanted to go see the world.
Oh, I always wanted to see the world. Mama said, she said, your middle name ought to be Go. And you know where he went? To Fort Benning, Georgia. Do you know where, the only place he told me he got offers to go was Camp Swampy over in Georgia. What was the name of that place?
Stewart.
Fort
Fort
Stewart.
Stewart.
And he got out of
Swamp
that.
Stewart, we called it.
Yeah.
So
And I could have gone to the Far East, but of course you couldn't have gone.
I could have if he'd stayed 2 years. He didn't want to go back
They
there
didn't
because
let
he'd already
the
been.
Tubmans go to Korea.
And after we went to Fort Benning, I got me a job. And the man was, they in Columbus, Georgia, the man was walking me out the door. And he said, oh, by the way, your husband's not military. And I said, yeah. He said, I can't hire you. He said, by the time I get you trained, he'll be shipped out. You'll go with him, of course. So I took the typing test. I couldn't type or nothing, but I passed. And at the time I was staying with my mom and daddy. Max had gotten hurt, and for some reason I had gone home. We still talk about, we don't know how that happened, but I got the letter saying that I passed that test. And Mama was way up at where Jill lives. She had a garden up there, and I ran all the way up there to tell her that I had passed that test. And I got a job right away.
it's a GS,
I started off as a GS2.
which is about the lowest you can get, isn't it?
I've never known anybody that started getting lower. And I made it up to a 3. And they put me over in finance, accounting and all. Well, they had a 4 come up. And the colonel called me up and he said, I'll give you that 4 if you'll promise me you won't leave when Max gets out of college. I couldn't promise him that, so I didn't get it. And then Max, we all took the FSW, which was a professional, getting in a professional. He and Tommy Benson and I took it. I found out I wanted to take it. They said, well, I'll take it too. Well, they got hired on the training program. They wouldn't hire me. I had to take go back to a GS2 to get a job over there.
Over where?
We went to Warner Robins, Georgia.
Okay.
And I piddled around and I finally got into a career field. It wasn't very easy.
Why do you count? Why is it that you didn't? That they took the guys, but not you?
Well, they were not anxious.
They gave you three questions and we can count the last 2.
They were still discriminating against
That's
women
right.
big time.
Big time.
But I finally did. I made them take me really up into the career field because I'd passed the FSW now. And guess what? We had a reduction in force. Guess where all of us women went out of they had 19,000 people and maybe 10 women. We all got riffed out.
All the women?
All the women got riffed out. And I went to procurement where Max was, which was a blessing because now they didn't discriminate bad against women. This is going too long.
It's very interesting to me.
It is interesting, but I made Chuck do the short version.
Yeah.
You
So I
gotta
gotta
do the
do
short
it
version.
too. But Max, I had gotten up as chief of the contracting for small purchase, which was a 9. And Max we tried to get, both of us tried to get a job with NASA. They wouldn't hire me. But they called Max and they said that they wanted Max. So,
Oh, sweet Max.
sweet Max. And I was going to try to work for industry, but it didn't work out. The Lord was looking after me. And so I got a job with the Army, and which was just a real blessing. And I got ripped a time or two. I don't know how many times.
But you wound up.
I wound up as a 14, sitting on a 15 job. I was supervising 2 GS-14 meetings. And it was a terrible job. And for all, I had known about this job out there. I found about it a long time ago. And I had been lobbying for this job, trying to, I wanted it. And a friend of mine got the job out there. Well, this job I got was the 14, should have been 15, was a terrible, terrible, terrible job.
And this is in Huntsville?
Huntsville, Redstone. Was a chief of contracts for a Patriot missile system. And to tell you how bad it was, I did get the job at Quadge. I'll go back to that. But my friend took the job after I left. He got promoted into it. He wasn't there any time until he took a downgrade to go back to his job. The next guy that took it, he retired to get out of there. And to tell you how the Lord looks at you, I wanted that job at Quadge, and Herb Baxley from down here had the job, and he was going to kind of keep me informed. Well, after I went to work at Patriot, I just didn't call him. I was just too busy, and I didn't call him. And so finally I'd call him, and I said, well, Herb, when are you coming home? He said, I'm coming home right away. He said, I thought you'd lost interest in this job, and they've hired somebody else. A goldsmith. I cried. And it wasn't but just maybe 2 weeks after that, one of the guys that worked over there that knew me, he called me, he said, Sarah, that goldsmith has got problems and he can't take that job. He said, you come over here and tell him that you want the job. Well, I was in the top 5 for that, and they would have never hired me, but they didn't have time to find anybody else because Herb said, I am coming home. So he told me, he said, take your paperwork over to personnel and faster. So I took it over there. That woman was busy, and I called her, and I forget her name right now. In about a week, I said, is everything going all right on my paperwork? She said, you didn't bring that paperwork over here. I said, I did. I said, I'll be over there this afternoon with another copy. So
what do you think happened to the paperwork?
You didn't anything. She was just so busy. She had desk covered in paper. She just had too much to do. But within 30 days, we had packed. Oh, Max said he would retire and go with me. And by the time they had added his military service and his civil service, he had enough time to retire. And he went with me. And so within 30 days, we was out of there. But now, well, hey, we skipped over a lot in here. Vanessa came to live with us when she was 3 in Huntsville. We had a mobile home park. And
You'll have to tell about the mobile home park.
yeah, you can tell that. And there again, the Lord blessed us because we said we was going to wait till I was 30 and then we was going to have children. Well, it didn't work out too good.
But Vanessa can.
But the Lord knew He had Vanessa waiting in the wings, so it just worked out really good. But now we didn't adopt Vanessa until she was old enough to say you wanted to be adopted, right, Vanessa? And Tommy Jo agreed to it, and Tommy Jo, her mother, my sister,
And
her
my
brother,
sister.
and her sister, and we came home to see Tommy Jo at least every 3 weeks, didn't we, Vanessa?
Yeah.
And Tommy Jo would come see us. And well, bottom line, when I came back from Quad, we stayed a year and a half, and it was wonderful. Vanessa she met this this guy, and they decided to get married, but they couldn't get married out there because they had to pay their wages back from to the States, so they went back to Nevada to get married. Right?
Yeah.
And when I got back, and this is another thing. I don't know why I decided to come home. I stayed 2 years, and they wanted me to sign up for the next year, and I said, well, I'll stay 6 months. And I did, but it wasn't any time after we got home that Daddy got sick, got that cancer. So I always thought that, the Lord intended this for us to come home.
And you were well rested when you did get here,
Yeah.
because you'd had a rough ride
I
on
had
some
a wonderful 2.5 years, and we can't go into all the wonderful. It was a 2.5 year vacation, even though I worked a bunch of overtime. All right, you want to give your version?
Good grief, she's out of tape, honey.
If you want to get up, Dad, because you're uncomfortable, it's okay.
Okay. Call me if you want to hear from me.
his knee is still.
You know what? We have got all weekend to do you guys.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. So,
You gotta do what?
We can videotape them another time.
We will get the third degree.
You think you're getting out
let's,
easy.
Let's do one thing while we got it going. This is November the 29th,
Yes.
the day before history.
history.
Because Auburn's gonna whip Alabama tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
We're going to be in Alabama tomorrow?
Whip Alabama.
Okay.
It is.
I believe
time is
America.
definitely
What
possible.
Maybe
time is
Washington
it
beat
Eastern
Washington
time?
State.
2:30.
Huh?
7 o'clock.
Yeah, you
Finish
talk
up
Is
about
it
front.
our
really only
grandchildren.
7 o'clock?
It is really only 7 o'clock.
Okay. My child is about to pass out, and so I'm like, let's take him upstairs. And Brian's like, it's only 7. I'm like, okay.
Or it's really only 7. No,
It's 8 o'clock.
no, 8 o'clock. She's,
It's my time.
It's your time.
Okay, and for the family, as Jackie said, we got Vanessa when she was 3 years old. Of course, we'd never raised a kid in our life before then. Poor thing was put in there amongst us people that was ignorant for the kids. But she's been a blessing. She sent me the greatest look. Well, you people on YouTube probably read it.
Facebook.
Facebook. Did she send that out to y'all? What she said
it's happy
was,
birthday.
Yeah.
yeah,
I printed it off for him, and he's gonna frame it.
what she said was that the last thing was that she was so thankful that God put us together as daddy and daughter. Now you just can't beat that. Can't beat that. And she's got 3 great kids. And I just love them to death. 2 of them is on up in age, but then we got this 11-year-old that's coming along. And I'll tell you a little story about him. I was looking for a tractor to mow that 2 acres we got down there plus.
Long.
And I was looking for a small tractor. So a guy up in close to Montgomery, Alabama, had one for sale. So I said, "What?" I told Jackie, I said, "I'm going up and look at that tractor." And I said, "I think I'll take Lewis with me." So Lewis and I go up there to look at this tractor. And while we're up there looking at the tractor, me and the old man that owns it was going over the specific details. And his daughter, who was 12 years old, tall girl, she was on that tractor doing everything she could with it. Bush hogging, running around there crazy. So we got back and started home. Lewis said, "Grandpa, I can drive that tractor." I said, "I don't know, son." I said, "That's a pretty heavy piece of equipment." I said, "I'll have to teach you." And he says, "Well, if a girl can drive it, I sure can." And hey, let me tell you something. The guy says, "I'll bring it down to you tomorrow with all the equipment." I said, "Okay." So when he got down there and he unloaded that tractor and all the equipment, Lewis came up there and he drove it, I think, before I did. And he was on that thing the rest of the day. Now he runs the bush hog and the mower and all this stuff. He just
And he's how old?
11 years old.
He was 10
He
then.
was 10 when he got the tractor.
Yep.
But and that's one of my grandkids. But I worked with NASA for 29 years and worked in the space program, some of the stuff that Gwen worked on. And we had the Saturn program that put the guy on the moon, and then of course I stayed on and worked in with the shuttle. I had one of the major components is under my department, which was the external tank. And when we were in quads and they launched that Challenger and it erupted, I knew exactly right then. I told Jackie, I said, "I know what caused that." And where that fire went over into that big tank of oxygen, that's what happens. It blows up. And that was a travesty.
How did you know what happened?
I saw it when it went up, and I saw it. I knew my components, see, so I was watching them. And when it was going up, I saw flame shoot out like a blowtorch or a acetylene torch. It hit the external tank. Of course, as hot as that went right through it because it was thin-walled tank. And it exploded. That's what happened to it.
What did you do with NASA?
I was a contracting officer. I worked in contracts and then become a contracting officer, which was the one that signs the contracts. We had guys working for me and gals working for me that was negotiating these contracts, and I was supervising. And I had a first job I had after I got to be a contracting officer was feasibility contracts, where they go through and try these different modes out, this project and that project, and the ones that look successful, they'll go ahead and do it. So that was the first one I had. One of the things that they you had to do away with this atomic energy after you use it up, and then the residue there, which is radioactive right on, was putting it in a big, huge cast iron ball and putting it right and shooting it out in space, because there's buku nuclear activity going on out there. It's too heavy. We couldn't do it. And, but some engineer came up with an idea, and it was worthwhile. We done feasibility contract on it, didn't prove out. But we done a lot of material engineering contracts that was feasibility contracts. I done a little smidgen on, oh gosh, I just dropped it. It's a flexible fiber, but it's stronger than steel. What is that stuff?
That's what I worked on that too, but I couldn't remember the name of it. And
Kevlar.
Kevlar, yeah,
Kevlar.
and they use it in a
Kevlar.
lot of different things
We
now.
made cells out of it for
Yeah,
racing
that's
robots.
And Kevlar, and then NASA done a lot with adhesives. And we'd have these different contracts with different contractors doing these experimental work on materials, and sometimes we'd hit the jackpot, and sometimes we wouldn't. But it was worthwhile doing it, and that's how NASA came up with all of that stuff. And but now Jackie's outfit, the Army, developed the internet. Absolutely
Now
did.
you quit laughing.
I'm not laughing. I know it's true.
Yeah, and Al Gore did have
Yeah.
you know, he was involved in it.
Yes, he was.
And they still got it, advanced studies. And one of our distant distance cousins was over it, a female. And a lot of this advanced stuff was started with them. In fact, I lost the word.
That's right.
No, these drone things they send
Oh,
over.
yeah, drones, unmanned craft.
A lot of those was done at Redstone. In fact, it turned out this friend of mine that took the downgrade, his son worked on them there in Huntsville, and this friend that finished high school with me, his grandson sat in Las Vegas, sent those drones, guided those drones to the target
In Afghanistan.
in Afghanistan. How about
In
that?
between slots.
Well, I was sitting on the very edge. It was
But now,
able
when
to stand up.
we came back from Kwajalein, I volunteered out at the Space Museum. And I was out there when a nephew, a niece of mine, went through as the space school.
Space camp.
Space camp,
And what was
Catherine.
her name?
Her name was Catherine. And I got to watch her go through that week, and really had a bunch of good times there. But I volunteered working that.
It's a long time
You
ago.
volunteered at space camp? You volunteered at
Yeah.
space camp?
Space Center.
The
Space
Space
At the
Center
at the
went-
Space
went-
Center.
Yeah, that was like the year Sean was born.
And
Wow.
Catherine was it? Catherine went to.
Hmm.
Yeah. She was, she was,
That was a few moons ago.
was she 13 then?
No, it was older than that, I bet. She'd have to
Yeah.
tell you, but
Because
because she was
I
Well,
was
there were
21.
certain levels that they had at
she was
Space
21.
Camp.
She was probably 16. Yeah,
Yeah, they
16, 15 or 16.
Yeah. But she went through out there, and I thought that was neat. I got to watch her go through. But oh, I won't brag on my daughter some. She finished. She lacked over a semester right when you got to Quadville,
Yeah.
and she made up one whole semester plus a half in one semester. She set up to study in at 2 o'clock in the morning every night, just about.
It was a year. It was a year and a semester.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was halfway through my junior
that's
year
right. Yeah,
and
but she made
graduated
it.
in one semester.
She made it through that hard work, and she done it. That's about it, isn't it?
There was something went through I was going to say, but it went gone.
We'll talk about moving to Florida. And
Oh gosh, you get a whole bundle of stuff there.
I always loved the water. I love the water. And I said, memorized Bible verses and won a trip to Florida. And Mom and Daddy wouldn't, they said, you can't go. It was for a week. For a week. They said, you can't go. I said, I'm going. No, you can't go. So I went over to Grandma and Grandpa's and borrowed their old suitcase, pasteboard suitcase, and was going to pack. And Daddy said, you are not going. And of course I didn't go. But Gwendolyn did the same thing, and they let her go.
It was a fight though.
Was it?
Well,
It was a fight.
you know, when I'd go to the beach, I didn't have a lot of sense in that water, and you was much more conservative.
Well, I was so stupid. I didn't have a suit. I didn't even have a suit, swimsuit when I went down there. Of course, they didn't want me to go, and nobody told me that I needed one, so I couldn't go in the water. The first year, I went several years. It was a good thing.
Did you really?
I did.
Because you memorize Bible verses?
Well, that's how. The first year, you have to memorize all those Bible verses.
And how do you get to go after that?
I think you just have to pay some money.
And
But-
this was,
Or
and this
maybe
was,
you had to memorize more. There was a lot of it had to do with memorizing Bible verses.
and this was Baptist training.
I
Oh, it's school. It was
Oh, well, this was
No,
school.
it wasn't sponsored by the school. It was sponsored. Don't you remember the Bible lady that came?
Yeah, but
It was not a school-sponsored thing.
but
They allowed it.
they allowed it, and our teacher was responsible for seeing that we learned them.
Oh yeah, no, they did that.
Yeah.
They-
Now, how many years ago was that?
That was a few years back.
And you know, the Bible ladies still come to Slocum Elementary School and
Really?
teach Bible lessons. They, of course, because of all the laws, they're no longer allowed to go into the school. They have a bus, they park on the street, and we signed a release at the beginning of the year for our kids to go see the Bible ladies in the Bible bus.
Yep.
And they come home with their Bible lessons, and yeah.
Who is
So
it
that,
sponsored by?
how many umpteen years ago was that?
It's the same people that runs the Victory
Camp
Bible-
Victory that
Camp
Louis
Victory
goes
that
to.
Louis went to, has gone to for 2
Yeah.
years.
Well, I don't know where that is though.
I don't know, we call them the Bible ladies. The Bible ladies still come to Slocum, is what I know.
But you know, as I say, I always loved the water, and I got to go to Quadge for 2.5 years, and water all around it. It was 3 miles long, and one part of the island was only a quarter of a mile wide. But beautiful beaches. And then we came home, and we still have 2 condos on the beach that we can go to anytime we want to. You don't
But-
say anything. Now, is that not being blessed?
That's very
And the
close.
Quadulan, the reason you loved it so much is it has the 2 main things that you love: water and flowers. That grew.
Oh, beautiful flowers. Just beautiful flowers.
But all of this minutia we've been talking about. I want to mention that Jackie and I has been privileged to travel most of the world. We've got, other than the North, the Antarctic and Arctic. We haven't been to Australia. We've been to South America, Mexico, Canada.
Did you go to
all
New
of
Zealand?
No, we haven't been down to Australia and New Zealand, and but we've been practically all over Europe, and the other, we have got a wonderful son-in-law that I just think the world of, and I tell you,
That's the second.
he is a jewel. I know my daughter.
It would be Joe.
You might not, she might
His
not think so
son-in-law
every
named
once in a
Joe.
while, but he is great.
And a sweet grandson. He's about 19 now.
Yeah.
He claims he's older than that.
Yeah.
But now then, talking about Gwendolyn and real estate, I think real estate runs in our blood. We're doing buying houses now, and Vanessa is renovating them, and we bought some real dogs. And
Got one, a
we
new
got
one.
one new one coming. I don't know how many we got now. Do you?
Just in Dothan, I think 11 or 12.
And 2 in Slocum.
Well, no, I think that's including Slocum.
Okay.
But
You didn't include
I
ours.
have to write them down.
And Vanessa subcontracted the house we're living in.
And the one she's living in.
The
Yeah.
the one she's living in, and we love ours. It is, we just love it.
But she had to put the arm on you to come back to the farm. I'll have to say that. And now that you're
You
there.
didn't put the arm on us.
Well, I just
She-
tried to convince y'all
It
that
took a
it would
while.
be a
Yes,
good
you
It
did.
took a
idea.
while. You said,
Yes,
no,
you
I'm
did.
not.
I laid the guilt trip on Dad.
Yes, you
I
did.
laid the guilt trip on Dad.
But you don't remember saying, oh, I'm not ever going to move again?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she did.
Yeah, well, it was
And
a
I'm
mess.
glad. I'm glad.
yeah. But now, when Dad had that thing of amnesia, you know, when we were in Huntsville, we were telling him that he had built, do you remember, trying to figure out where his memory had lapsed. And we're like, well, you know, you live on the farm now. And he's like, I do not live there. All that's across the street from that farmhouse is the old barn.
That's right.
And we're like, no, we built you a house. Why would I build a house at 83 years old? Are you crazy? We're like, well, be that me. You built a house.
So we've lived a really charmed life, wouldn't you say? And we have vacationed together many,
Oh,
many,
yeah, I
many.
wanted
Go ahead and tell it.
Blessed. I'll
Oh,
tell
yeah,
you.
Gwendolyn and Chuck and Max and I did a lot of those trips together, a lot of them together,
And they were all wonderful.
absolutely.
And when we were kids, we did all the beach vacations
Oh,
together.
yes. Tell about the cabin that we, your friend and my friend owned at in Alabama, the
At Gulf Shores,
Gulf Shores.
I worked with Bob Lipscomb.
And I worked with Dave Lipscomb.
Yeah, and Bob and Bertie had this cabin. It was a 2-bedroom cabin, 1 bath. And we rented it for a week every year. $125.
Was it that much?
Yeah.
Okay, divided by the two, it didn't seem quite so much.
Yeah, and we and we had to. The deal was we had to leave that cabin good and clean because somebody was going. The next people would come in and nobody wouldn't be cleaned up. And we packed food. Every family, Gwendolyn and her 2 kids and Chuck, and Vanessa and Tommy Joe,
And Ann.
and
And
Ann,
John Paul.
and John Paul.
And then
And
y'all.
sometimes Harold came. Or did he ever come?
I'm not
And
sure.
he may have worked.
I
had
think he
worked.
came once.
Me
Doesn't
too.
it seem like he came
Came one
once?
time.
But I do not know how we got by with that 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
We took turns. Very simple.
And we'd take just tons of food. Each family would take a coolers full of food. And I know Max would say, we're never going to eat all that food. Would you quit fixing all that food?
And tell why we did that.
Because there was one little grocery store, or we had to go back to Fort Morgan a long ways. And if you bought anything at that grocery store, it was high as cat's back.
And now, you wouldn't believe that place.
Oh yeah, but we had good time. It was good.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Favorite
We would have
vacation.
kept going if Hurricane Frederick wouldn't have come through and changed our vacation plans
Yeah, just
for,
took-
for eternity.
Swept that little peninsula
Completely
off.
our cabin was gone. The only way they found it was with this the septic tank.
And that's when they started redeveloping.
Yeah.
They're putting in
Yeah.
fancy condos and stuff.
Yeah.
When did Frederick come through?
Golly. Whoa, about 1970. Let's see.
I don't have any
No.
idea.
8.
No, we sold the mobile home park in 1970,
4.
but we had sold it
What's going
twice.
on in there?
We sold the first time in 70.
Okay, so it had to be pre-1974.
No. It was
No.
after that. It was after that.
Oh, did that came
The,
through?
the hurricane came through because I've got pictures of me at the beach and I was like a pre 11, 12 years old. So we were still going down there at that age, which would
I think it was 78 or 79.
yeah, that's what
1978
I'm
or
thinking
1979.
because that would have
When
put me
when
about
was
12.
when and of course Frederick came after Camille, didn't he?
Yeah.
No,
I think Camille was the one that took it away, man.
It may have been Camille.
No,
Camille was in New Orleans.
Frederick.
I think it was Camille.
And,
I think it was Frederick. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, your mother was living in New Orleans when Camille went through.
Right. That was a lot earlier. I was thinking
Yeah.
Camille was
Yeah.
69 in my
Yeah,
mind. I
that's
don't know
true.
why.
That's true.
But Frederick was later. Because I was at least 6. Was I 6? I was really young. Because there's 5 years difference between
Yeah.
us. So if you were a preteen, if you were 12,
Yeah.
I was 7 at max.
Yeah, all y'all, you and
We were little.
you were pretty little. And we went one more year to
Just sit
Panama
with your
City.
granddad.
One more year. Do you remember going to Panama City?
Oh, yeah.
There's some
But we only went there one
Hey,
year.
Louis.
didn't we?
more peanuts in there.
Yeah, and we stayed in this kind of
You don't eat
questionable.
more peanuts.
Yeah, I do. I'm filling up on crackers right now, so.
You
The hot crackers?
can get
Oyster
some of
crackers.
Oyster crackers.
You get some of those peanuts, maybe.
I'll just,
Yeah.
please stop doing that all like
You
that.
should wrap it up.
Anything else? Is
No.
that about it?
That's about it, y'all. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Getting heat on my back.
You got it turned on?
Have a good night.